put more officers on the road.
Be easy to think we eventually have to get a break, right? Well, it's all eyes down to what's continuing to roll in. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And the Biden administration considers releasing diesel reserves to help ease the pain at the pump.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
State authorities investigate a house explosion in Chanute, Kansas after a person is found dead inside the home. This is KOAM News at Noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, the ATF and Kansas State Fire Marshal are called in for a death investigation. Firefighters got the call Saturday morning about a fire at 1420 South Evergreen in Chanute. But it was not a fire. One wall of the home had been blown out by the explosion, and 3 other exterior walls and the roof were significantly damaged. Crews took precautions to prevent further collapse of the home and then went in and found the body. They've not yet released the victim's identity. Click It or Ticket campaign is underway across the nation this week. It's a reminder to drivers heading into the holiday weekend to always buckle up. It also provides grant money to local law enforcement agencies so they can put extra deputies on the road to enforce seatbelt laws and keep other drivers safe. Officials say there are a number of dangers to not being buckled up. Some are obvious, others are not.
A lot of people don't realize also that if they're in the passenger with somebody, if the other person has a seatbelt and they don't, they'll do a lot of damage to that individual in a car wreck themselves. So it's important for everybody, not just the driver, but the passengers, everybody, to have a seatbelt on.
Jennings says around 65% of car accident deaths in Missouri are people who are not buckled up. Well, if you are out and about this week, you might experience a little water over the roads.
Yeah, we've already got it.
All right, Michael Hislop joins us.
Tanya, we are a long way from being over with this, and just give you a quick overview as of why. Look at how far this spreads down. This is all the way through DFW, south of the Red River, and all this is eventually just going to keep on tracking our way. So we've still got some of the heaviest rain left for this afternoon and evening that, excuse me, have yet to even fall on the 4 states. And with that being said, we're in the midst of these flood watches throughout southeast Kansas. Use the icons there just as storm reports to give you an idea about where we're seeing 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches of rain. And then as you push out to the west of us, see where that bright green is in the Wichita area? They've got some reports that are already in excess of 4 inches of accumulation. So as we wait for this to pile up, we're going to see our flood watches expanded. We've already had that in comparison to where we were at this point in time yesterday. Quiet right now over 7th and Rangeline. That's because we will get intermittent breaks every now and then, especially as you push into portions of eastern southwest Missouri. We haven't really seen anything kind of make its easterly push as of yet. But look at what happens on future track as we get into tonight. There we go. That's going to dominate our eastern counties from the afternoon, evening, and nighttime hours. I would love to tell you that after that round on Wednesday, we're going to be done. That will not be the case, as we're going to carry this rain from Wednesday night into Thursday morning as well. Coming up here in just a little bit, Tanya, let's talk about how much we've already picked up and break down some river-specific flood warnings. Ever since we reconvened from this morning, no, we've seen vast expansion and also a number of rivers added to the flood warning categories.
All right. Yeah, a lot to keep track of, that's for sure. All right, thanks, Michael. President Biden wraps up his trip to Asia by meeting with the leaders of the Quad, Australia, India, and Japan. The group talked about global security, especially in light of the war in Ukraine. The president also insisted he was not changing U.S. policy towards Taiwan after he said the U.S. would commit to defending the self-governing island if China were to attack. And this could be a big day for the country's political future. 5 states are voting today, and there is a common theme: the influence of former President Donald Trump. Ed O'Keefe is in Atlanta.
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp shared the stage last night with longtime ally, former Vice President Mike Pence.
We're in the fight for the soul of our state.
That puts them at odds with former President Donald Trump, who pushed former Senator David Perdue to enter the governor's race.
Brian Kemp is a turncoat, he's a coward, and he's a complete and total disaster.
Re-elect Governor Brian Kemp for 4 more years at the State House.
But Perdue is turning his focus to the unopposed Democratic candidate for governor, Stacey Abrams, and these comments she made last weekend.
I am tired of hearing about being the best state in the country to do business when we are the worst state in the country to live. When you're number 48 for mental health, when you're number 1 for maternal mortality, then you're not the number 1 place to live.
And while the 48-year-old has called Georgia home since high school, Perdue had this response last night.
Said that Georgia's the worst place in the country to live. Hey, she ain't from here. Let her go back where she came from. She doesn't like it here.
Trump has endorsed dozens of Republican candidates across the country this year, but he's arguably most personally invested in Georgia. His hand-picked candidate for U.S. Senate, ex-NFL player Herschel Walker, is expected to easily win his primary, setting himself up for a race against Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock. But it's in Georgia's other statewide races where the former president's support may not be enough to produce a win. In the wake of the 2020 elections, he pressured Kemp and Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to help change the results of the election so he could keep the White House. Trump's pressure included phone calls like this one.
Look, Brad, I have to find 12,000 votes.
Both men refused, and that's upset some Republican voters here.
I will not vote for Brian Kemp under any circumstances.
But polls show Kemp is likely to easily win tonight, thanks to Republicans who support how he handled the pandemic, his built-up the state economy, and his willingness to stand up to Trump.
Is Trump the kingmaker of the party? I firmly believe he is not.
I think it's rather unseemly for a former president, and I believe it's somewhat vengeful.
Raffensperger faces a crowded field and may be headed to a runoff.
I've talked to Tea Party groups, Republican Party groups, Rotary, Kiwanis, business chambers, any group that'll invite me in. I've been talking about the facts.
In a sign of the interest in these primaries, more than 875,000 early votes were cast, a record, more than triple the number that showed up 4 years ago for similar contests, and all this in a state that has rewritten its election laws since the 2020 election. Ed O'Keefe, CBS News, Atlanta.
Today, Arkansas voters are casting ballots in the state's preferential primary. Races on the ballot include governor, a U.S. Senate seat, and congressman. We'll be tracking those results this evening. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, the pain at the pump is not just affecting gasoline drivers. Those who fill with diesel are seeing skyrocketing prices too. We take a look. And later, we're making extra crispy fried chicken in the Mr. Food Test kitchen. Millions of Americans are hitting the road and heading to the airport this holiday weekend despite the high cost of gas and flights. AAA reports more than 39 million Americans will travel 50 or more miles over the Memorial Day weekend. That's up 8.3% from last year. Well, gas prices have hit a new high every day for the past 2 weeks. Diesel fuel is up too. As Carter Evans explains, that covers a lot of ground and hits consumers right in the pocket.
Yesterday I seen fuel prices like $6.39 a gallon.
Imagine paying that for a fill-up of more than 100 gallons.
A regular fill-up would have been, just say 6 months ago, about $700. Now it's about $1,000.
It's what truckers are facing across the country for diesel, and you're paying the price, according to oil analyst Tom Kluza.
If you're ordering anything that moves by freight across the country, it comes via fuel surcharges. Probably not the worst of the diesel surcharges. That'll come next month.
The Biden administration is now considering tapping a rarely used diesel reserve to help ease prices.
1 million barrels of diesel in this reserve, in the whole grand scheme of things, how much is that?
Very incidental. It'll help, but it doesn't move the needle much.
Last month, the White House tapped the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to help ease skyrocketing oil prices. But with Memorial Day weekend coming up, more than 39 million people are expected to travel, increasing demand for gasoline.
I just don't think there's any magic bullet at the moment. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough summer.
And he says fuel prices could keep rising if any refineries were to shut down.
August looks like it's going to be very active hurricane season in the Gulf of Mexico, where about half of our refining capacity is on the coast. Anything goes when we get to hurricane season. And that's true for gasoline, it's true for diesel, and it's true for jet fuel.
Carter Evans, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Still to come on the KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
It's time to shake up your Memorial Day menu with a dish that's good, hot or cold, and is always welcome. Any ideas about what it is?
First, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
I'd have to say the number one question from last night into this morning when we look at the 7-day forecast, even yesterday, was how is this thing going to last this long? How is it not going to run out of gas? Well, here's the thing, and we'll break this down when we talk about precipitable water. It's just the fact that there is so much Gulf moisture out there that it's got plenty to feed itself. So let's start up to our north, where we actually have picked up very, very limited lightning strikes. So that has not been a problem. In fact, this morning we were void of any lightning whatsoever. But now as we get into Vernon County, up toward in between Nevada and Butler along I-49, now we're seeing a little incursion into southwest Missouri, where earlier this thing was staying all to the west of I-49. It was almost 49, was acting like a dividing line, but then we can put on our storm tracks and throw up the storm cone and give you an idea how that will continue to proceed to the north for early this afternoon until we get the easterly push. Then as we drop down throughout southeast Kansas, just been dominated by rain dating back to last night, and that is exactly why we've got the flood watch for those counties indicated in green. And then when we talk about our storm reports in particular, well, if we push in there to right along the Kansas-Oklahoma state line where we see that yellow, that's up close to 2.5 inches. We even had reports west of Wichita today. How about 5 inches of rain that were picked up? That's where you see those little orange that pops in there just on the other side of Tulsa and right below Wichita, but certainly nothing to scoff at as far as our numbers because we've got a lot more to come. We also have river-specific warnings. This is for the Neosho River running from Chanute all the way down to the Miami Commerce area. As a matter of fact, if we drop in on Miami Commerce, look at this. It's going to last all the way until Sunday. And then up to the north, specifically for Vernon County, we've got the Osage and the Little Osage with a number of flood warnings as well. We're going to see about everything get over its banks. So let's talk precipitable water here. Why is it not going to run out of gas? Why is it not going to run out of energy? Well, if we take off the radar here, look at how the Gulf moisture kind of splits all the way through Oklahoma. So that's very unusual for that Gulf moisture to be able to linger that far to the north, work its way up to the Arklatex region, and there it is, all the way over the 4 states. You pretty much got to get into central Nebraska, far western Kansas, even central Iowa to find anything that is a dry air mass. So while we're stuck in the middle of this, it gives it a whole lot of ability to keep on raining on us. Now, I will find a little bit of a silver lining here, and that's when we talk about our convective available potential energy. We always concentrate on that when it comes down to thunderstorm activity. And you'll notice all the energy really rides along the Gulf Coast, so it doesn't have a whole lot of power to eat up, throw us a whole bunch of lightning, high wind, hail, tornadic activity, things of that nature. But certainly we just need to be done with the rain. Do want to point out where we see the Cape in the DFW area right there. Watch how this kind of mimics exactly where we see the elevated category on the severe thunderstorm risk map. So once again, that convective available potential energy gives you a really good idea about where the severe weather is, but let's not kid. I mean, flooding is as dangerous as anything else, especially when you have a month of May like we have. We're now double from what we'd historically be. All right, so here's Future Track for the afternoon. There you are for everybody on the eastern edge of southwest Missouri. It comes down, and it comes down good. Then we get ready for Wednesday morning's commute. It is right back on us. And even though we get a little bit of a break on Wednesday, here's where we see it stall out Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And instead of the northerly push, all of a sudden it works from west to east. And that's why it's going to stick around for Thursday morning until finally Thursday afternoon it begins to break up. Still looking at a great Memorial Day weekend, and at that point in time we are going to be so sun-starved and just wanting every second of dry air that we can get our hands upon that it's going to be well worth the wait. Until then, as Tanya was saying earlier, yeah, we talked a little bit about click it or ticket, but Tanya always does a great job reminding us, turn around, don't drown. We've already got county roads underwater.
Yes, just be safe out there.
Yep.
That's for sure. All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Seaman Chad McComb in the U.S. Coast Guard. The McCune, Kansas native joined the military in 1988 and served until 1992. He earned the Unit Commendation Medal, the Expert Rifleman and Pistol Marksman honors, and also the National Defense Medal. To Seaman Chad McComb, we thank you, our four-state hero. Today's recipe is perfect for sit-down meals with the family or to take on a picnic under the warm summer sky. Howard shows us how to make finger-licking good, extra crispy fried chicken in the Mississippi.
With Memorial Day right around the corner, many of us are starting to think about what we can serve when the family comes over. If you're like me, you want something that you can make ahead, something that'll feed a crowd, and of course, something that's really tasty. How about fried chicken that's so crispy, your relative sitting across from you can hear the crunch? We start by bathing some cut up bone-in chicken in a mixture of milk mixed with a beaten egg. From there, we dip the chicken into some seasoned flour, and once it's coated, gently shake off the excess flour. Before we add our chicken to the hot oil, we want to make sure the temperature is 350 degrees. This way, it'll cook evenly inside and out. After it's cooked, we let it drain for a second on a wire rack, and it's ready to dig into. You can also make this a day or so ahead and serve it chilled, or simply heat it up in a warm oven right before serving it. Talk about a main dish that will be welcomed with open arms. Of course, you'll want to team this with your typical go-alongs. To get your hands on the recipe for our extra crispy fried chicken, head over to our website. I'm Howard of the Mr. Food Test Kitchen with Kelly, where today we found a crispy, crunchy way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our four-state market prices.
All evening and night, it's going to stay with us. That Gulf moisture is just not going to give up, and it will continue all the way through Wednesday as well. Temperatures in the mid-60s. Remember, everybody, we are going to have a nice Memorial Day weekend. We just got to get there first. Yeah. Now, Tanya, are you familiar with Conway Springs, Kansas?
I don't believe I am.
Just to the southwest of Wichita. I just got a local report. 7.59 inches of rain since midnight.
Oh, wow.
The springs in Conway Springs are springing.
Yeah.
Interesting. What do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, Jif peanut butter is linked to a Salmonella outbreak, leaving at least 14 people sick. We've told you that. In Health Watch, we're going to learn more about Salmonella and ways to protect against infection. Plus, the Joplin Chamber is working with local businesses on how to navigate the labor shortage, and details on a wrongful death lawsuit filed against the Joplin School District. Hope you join us for those stories. A lot more, of course. It's coming up on KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dal. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here, 5 o'clock.